respond to it, hopefully.
Okay, hello and welcome to the CIN network. We have with us today Brian Massie, who is the CEO of Real Split Technology. Real Split is a real-world commercial property fractional ownership platform. And they're a team that we've been working with to bring and surface an opportunity for investors to get involved at the early stage of this conceptual platform in terms of being able to access the fractional commercial property opportunities, which otherwise would not be available. So I'm going to do a quick introduction of what this opportunity entails, and Brian is going to then take us through his some of his experience and what brought him to this stage. So let me welcome Brian to the conceptual stage. So Brian, just take us through the idea of Real Split, where it came from, and what drove you to get to this point.
Thank you, Rexford. Nice to be here and appreciate the introduction. So, I've spent nearly 3 decades in commercial real estate, working across acquisitions, development, asset management, construction, really all phases of commercial real estate investment and application and management. Throughout that time, one thing became increasingly clear to me is that commercial real estate investment really has been for the high net worth individuals, institutions, and others with deep pockets and vast resources. There hasn't been an opportunity for uh, your average investor to have access to some of the best real estate deals out there. And that was something that really stuck with me. And it's something that I've been working on, trying to figure out how to allow your average investor to access some of these deals. I have an extensive pipeline of deals because I've been doing it for so long, and I've worked extensively, on the institutional side, and have done billions of dollars of real estate transactions in my career. So I see how the industry has changed and evolved over time, and it's been very slow. The progress has not been as quick as some other industries to adapt and adopt technology. As technology was changing so quickly, the real estate, especially the commercial real estate industry, started to fall behind. So we wanted to build something dynamic and efficient to basically take advantage of the new technology that's available and combine it with a very old and established industry, specifically real world assets, and in this case, commercial real estate, one of the largest asset classes in the world, in one of the largest asset classes that is still largely inaccessible to your everyday investor. So that was kind of the light bulb moment that I had. I wanted to create something for your average investor to come in and share this huge opportunity of commercial real estate investment with. So the vision was to combine institutional quality commercial real estate with modern technology, allowing investors to basically participate in assets that they historically, would have required, millions of dollars in a lot of cases to access. We wanted to create a platform that makes investing in commercial real estate accessible, efficient, and ultimately more inclusive. And that's really how Real Split evolved and has come about. And now we have a fully functional platform, and we're ready to launch.
Yeah, that's great, fantastic. It really kind of stokes my interest when experienced professionals like yourself can understand how valuable their insight and experience they've gained is, and be able to democratize that experience into a product or service that's accessible to more people. And I think that's one of the key features of Real Split is it's opening up a side of the market that really is not visible to many, and it is very much an institutional opportunity, which you've kind of scaled and surfaced to the average investor, somebody that's able to make any a small to medium sized investment, thousand to 10,000, $20,000 investments in the conceptual side of an opportunity which is geared for growth. And I'm guessing this is where your experience has kind of really comes into its own, Brian. So in simple terms, commercial property, obviously is a phrase that people hear about quite a lot. What does that actually mean? What does commercial property in its basic form actually mean? And how does that opportunity differ from, typical residential property? Just to give us a split between the two. What's the difference?
Um, so those are the two primary types of real estate. You have residential and you have commercial. Commercial is kind of all-encompassing. Basically, it typically means income producing. So any piece of real estate that produces income and is run more as a business as opposed to a single-family home, which would be occupied by a family, for example. Those are typically not considered businesses. Those are considered still investments, of course. So probably one of your biggest investments you'll ever make is, buying a home. But that's not the same as commercial real estate, which is primarily made up of industrial, like warehouses, retail, such as storefronts, and then you have hospitality, such as hotels, and then typically multifamily residential is what we deal in the commercial side in the residential world, which are apartments and condominiums, anything where you have a grouping of units that make up a commercial property that produces income. Now, some of these companies have gotten into buying groupings of single family homes and running them as a business, but that's now being frowned upon because nobody really wants a company owning your home. And especially in the United States here, we are the government is not as favorable to that anymore. So really commercial is specifically for larger commercial opportunities. And typically these deals are much more expensive and harder to access. The barriers to entry are quite significant. In fact, you have limited opportunities or even insight into some of these deals for your typical investor. So those are the primary differences.
Yeah, that's great. That's quite clear. And it kind of really sets the differences between those two markets. And it makes it very easy for the entry level investors to understand how that works. So in your own words, how do you think Real Split will change the way people invest in commercial property? And I guess to that end, globally, making commercial property accessible to global investors. How do you see that impacting the commercial property market? So I guess two questions there really is one, how do you think it's going to change the way people invest in commercial property? And two, opening up commercial property to a global investor base. So how do you see that working out?
Well, I think it's going to be a game changer for the way people invest going forward because commercial real estate is one of the largest industries in the world. It's a multi-trillion-dollar industry, and a lot of folks haven't had an opportunity to invest in any of these deals yet. But it's one of the most powerful wealth building tools in the world. I think everyone typically knows that real estate is a way to gain wealth. It's a way to appreciate your asset and you build your wealth and it should be part of your portfolio, I believe. But participation has been limited, by high minimum investment requirements and geographic barriers to entry. The minimum investment requirements are typically in the millions of dollars for commercial real estate, and the geographic barriers to entry can be vast. Right now, this is opening up investment opportunities for the whole world to acquire, own, and gain income from commercial assets anywhere in the world through our platform, which is unique. Typically, real estate has been more of a local business where you have investors who understand the local market and they can invest locally in their market, but anywhere outside of that is typically left for the larger institutional type of investors. By creating RealSplit as a platform where anyone in the world can connect to the platform, can see in real time opportunities that we've now fractionalized, and they have a lower barrier to entry, a lower investment threshold, and they can quite literally go into the data room and start to learn about that market, learn about those assets, and pick and choose specifically which properties they would like to invest in, which is quite different than many platforms that act more just like a fund structure where you're putting your money into a blind pool and that fund is making the decisions on where your money is being invested. With RealSplit, you actually get to take a deep dive into these markets, into these particular specific properties, and that gives a completely new perspective to investing in commercial real estate. Not only are the financial barriers to entry less, and the geographic barriers to entry have now opened up, and it's become a global asset class that you can invest in. So our goal is to create a more accessible, transparent, and liquid investment opportunity, really an investment ecosystem, because we want this to be a community-based platform where our investment community starts to really act, feel, and appreciate being a real commercial real estate investor if they choose to. They can also be passive if they choose to. But we encourage our investors to learn more about commercial real estate investment, how these deals work, how the income and expenses work if they like, how the distributions are made. We do make quarterly distributions to our investors, so they are getting actual income that's being generated by these properties, by these assets they invest in. They are able to receive quarterly distributions of both operating and liquidating dividends, which is quite unique. So when people start seeing that these properties are really spitting off cash flow for them, that's when it gets exciting, especially when you have a liquidity event. So this is it creates a liquid asset out of a relatively illiquid asset class. That's another thing that's very exciting for us to be able to build and create for our investors. So,
Yeah, I think thanks for that. I think that's quite exciting. I think we had that analogy before. I think Daniel raised it about how that commercial property market is typically quite close-ended in terms of, how you exit that investment is sometimes quite elongated in terms of timeline. And obviously, using the fractional ownership creates a liquidity pool for people to enter and exit the market at will, relatively. And that kind of segues into my next question, which is, in terms of growth, in terms of kind of high level numbers, what size, how do you see the growth of Real Split within the next 3 to 5 years, if you had to kind of put some headline numbers against it? And do you have any kind of past trends that you can provide as an example to us as investors in terms of how a relatively small portfolio can grow into a larger portfolio, and what kind of timeline is based on? So just headline numbers, really. Where do you think you're going to be?
well, we believe we're still in a very early stage of real world asset investment and fractionalization and tokenization. The technology is moving faster than the industry can keep up at this point. And as a result, a lot of companies are still playing catch up. AI is just now becoming a thing. AI is now being integrated into many different business models, including slowly into the commercial real estate industry. But it's in its very early stages. I would say it's infancy. And we have a massive transformation ahead of us where you're going to see the industry very transform very quickly. And you're going to see commercial real estate, which represents, again, trillions of dollars globally. Only a small fraction of that has been digitized or fractionalized today. Over the next 3 to 5 years, I would say that's a good timeline to be looking at. Our objective is to build RealSplit into the leading institutional commercial investment platform for real world assets, specifically commercial real estate to start, and then eventually intellectual property as well. But we're at the very early stages. So in terms of numbers, for our company, we're looking to, over the next 3 to 5 years, build a significant portfolio of income producing assets for our investors. We're looking to take it from just a few properties that we have on our platform today to over 200 million in portfolio assets under management over the next 3 years. And then within 5 years, we expect to be at $1 billion in assets under management within that 5 years. And we're not just invest in other people's money. We actually will have an ownership position in every deal that we do, which is also quite different than other platforms. We take a hands-on approach. We do our own asset management. We have our own in-house asset management team, a very experienced team of asset managers who will operate these properties. So our investors can be as passive or as take a deep dive into the information as they like. But ultimately, our team of experienced asset managers will be managing these assets. They will be providing quarterly financial statements to our investors as well as annual financial statements. Our team of experienced professionals will rely on the latest technology, both in terms of artificial intelligence as well as blockchain technology, to track ownership and to produce important investor documentation, specifically financial statements, tax-related information for their property. So they don't have to worry about any of that. That's all handled for them. But they do have full transparency to the data, which is quite important for these deals. So we see over the next 3 to 5 years a massive transformation taking place in the market, and ultimately we will have $1 billion in assets under management within the first 5 years. That's our goal.
Yeah, that sounds like tremendous growth and a wonderful opportunity for investors to really get a foot in the door in a market that essentially grows with the economy. And when you look at the targets that have been set out, especially in the US, to grow over the next 5 to 10 years, and the packages, the stimulus, etc., that's kind of gearing up. So commercial property also covers, manufacturing, etc. Not just hotel buildings, but it covers a whole swathe of property types that are pinned to the growth of the economy. And just following up from that, so other than the monetary return, as I understand it, there is additional networking opportunities and opportunities to actually visit some of these properties and partake of the services. Can you kind of give us some examples of those associative benefits, please?
Yes, absolutely. Our platform expects to have tens of thousands of active investors over time, which is really a community. So we're building essentially a community of like-minded investors who value real world asset investing, who want to see their money grow, who want to have passive income potentially, who want to have access to that income and to their money anytime they want. So we want to create, again, liquidity for these global investors. And we are creating a true global international investment community through compliant, obviously locally compliant regulations. But we want to develop also a robust secondary market trading platform. So as we build this community, they will be able to trade their fractionalized splits, as we call them, on our platform. And as we grow that community, there will be added benefits that they will be able to participate in and network amongst each other with, including, for example, a hotel opportunity in Tulum, Mexico, which we actually have one right now. It's on the beach. It's a beautiful property, and it's a health and wellness uh, related hospitality place. So, which is the next big deal in hospitality. A lot of um, health and wellness is being steered towards global hospitality. And this particular property happens to have an attached spa where you can do all sorts of treatments and go there and relax and have a normal vacation, but also take, a serious health, treatment plan at the same time if you choose to. So, as an example, that community of health-minded investors who want five-star hotel and hospitality treatment who are willing to travel around, that community is going to have added benefits such as being able to communicate with each other, have certain events that will be sponsored, that they'll be notified about. They'll have an opportunity to win prizes and to be able to travel to that location and actually receive benefits at the location, such as potentially a free hotel night or a free food and beverage service, or possibly even a free spa treatment at the spa. So things like that, where we'll be able to give away and have prizes and raffles for the community, but we don't want to make it too much like that, because really the important thing is that the investors are investing into a property that is producing income, but that they can also participate in the community of investors, and that can expand because that's just one property. We're going to have many opportunities. And as we grow the platform, as we grow the portfolio, that global community is going to grow, and they're going to be able to have many opportunities going forward to invest in deals that are across the board, all income producing, but across the board in terms of their asset class. We have hospitality, we have multifamily apartments, we have industrial space, self-storage, for example. So there will be, depending on your appetite for investment, there will be opportunities to invest in multiple asset classes. They all produce income and they all will have a community associated with them. And they'll all be able to be traded. Their fractionalized splits will be traded on our secondary platform, which is pretty exciting.
Yeah, that's really interesting. It's almost like within the even the niche of that fractional commercial property ownership or investment, you've got individual niches within there, which is quite interesting. It kind of segues into my next question, which was obviously within Europe, there's always talk about green investments. So I guess my question to you, my next question is, which aspect of real split is utilizing, your experience in terms of kind of rehashing and reconceptualizing buildings to kind of save on resources and make them more green when they are repurposed, etc. So can you kind of just give an example of how maybe you've done that in the past and created, a new concept from an old building and how that obviously has saved and the impact on the environment?
Sure. Well, I have been involved in many different types of projects over the years, including many adaptive reuse projects, where we go in and rather than just tearing down a beautiful old building or even maybe a not so beautiful old building, we try to find ways to repurpose it, to take what's already there, find the good bones if it has good bones, and then take it and make it better, beautify it, add value to it, create amenities for it, and obviously renovate it in many cases. I'll give you an example of a project I did recently in Los Angeles. There was an old uh, apartment building built in the 1920s. It was originally built as a historic hotel. It's called the Gershwin, and it's located in Hollywood. It was on Hollywood Boulevard. Beautiful old building that we took, and it had been partially renovated when I found it, but it needed a lot of work. So we rolled up our sleeves and we renovated every single unit in the property. We built new common areas. We put in amenities for the residents. We added a dog park, for example. We added washers and dryers. We added, brand new electrical service. Some of the things you think are basic that people take for granted with some of these properties. But when you have bad plumbing or bad electrical, or you don't have access to, a place to wash your clothes or a place to walk your dog, I mean, these things start to make a big difference in your everyday life. And we try to create environmentally friendly spaces that are low impact, that have green building materials as much as possible, where we offer our residents a quality of life in every property that we have, residential, obviously, as well as, of course, hospitality. Um, and we also try to think what could make the community better. So we do try to give back to the community, and in many cases, we've built around the community things that the community needed, such as a basketball court, or we took flower plantings and planted the whole neighborhood, not just our property, because really our property is part of a community. It's part of the overall neighborhood that it exists in. In every deal I've ever done, I've tried to go into the community and try to find ways to integrate with the community, as opposed to come in like the big bad developer and say, okay, here's my development. Rather than that, we wanted to integrate and understand what does the community need? Who are the community leaders? What's important to them? How can we give back? And how can we also make this an environmentally friendly place where people can come and feel good about being here, where they have clean air? We put in all new HVAC with clean air filtration systems. We put in clean water systems into every building we do for the residents, water filtration systems. So you have clean air, clean water, a clean place to live. That's very important, for just basic habitability. And then, of course, with our hotel properties, we're thinking outside the box. We're trying to give them something that maybe you don't think about, like a Bitcoin ATM machine in the lobby, or a saltwater swimming pool, things that people desire and find important, but not everybody offers. So these are all ways that we're trying to improve and make a better quality of life for our guests, for our residents, and for the communities that they exist in.
Yeah, that's great. It's always interesting to see somebody's passion break out through some of these conversations that we have, and I can see that you're very passionate about repurposing the buildings. And also, I think a key aspect that you mentioned there is reaching beyond the building into the community. It's not just, your front yard, but expanding out and upscaling the community increases the equity value of your building. And I think sometimes people, especially commercial property, sometimes people forget that, and it's very nice that that's touched upon. Just moving on slightly, people, you hear buzzwords being floated around. You hear about global investments and the global investor now. How do you think Real Split is going to be able to take advantage of that global market in its current capacity?
Well, I believe this is probably one of the biggest shifts happening today, one of the most significant shifts in finance today, as well as real estate, of course. Historically, commercial real estate has been, as I said, a local opportunity for most. It was restricted by geography. It was restricted to local relationships, and it had a lot of institutional barriers. Today, those barriers are being broken down. Globalization is occurring, whether people want to or not. The world is getting smaller. You see that happening every day. Technology is bringing people closer together. Social media has changed everything. When you have prime ministers and presidents using social media to communicate to their constituents and to their communities, you know that it's here to stay. And now you have AI, which is making it even faster and exponentially faster. And so we're expanding as a society. We have satellites blanketing the planet now. There is very little privacy left. So, but yet the people in power, have historically maintained that control over assets like large commercial properties. But now, because of it's becoming a global community of investors, And with platforms like RealSplit, it's now bringing people together. It's allowing smaller investors with smaller dollar amounts to collaborate, to collectively, um, you know, come together and buy assets that they couldn't have access to before. Fractional ownership combined with digital investment infrastructure, like blockchain technology and cryptocurrency, of course, is a game changer for commercial real estate investment, and for the world, really. A qualified investor in London or Dubai or LA or New York, um, can now invest in the same piece of real estate that, you know, typically only institutions could have invested in before. They can all come together as a community, especially for European investors. It's quite interesting for them to have access to deals in the U.S. or anywhere around the world now, and vice versa, for U.S. or Asian-based investors to have, access to a hotel in Tulum or a car wash in L.A. or a multifamily property somewhere in the UK, for example. These are things that we can now do, and it creates a much more efficient global capital marketplace, which significantly expands the pool of available investors, and quite honestly, creates a lot of investment opportunities that just simply weren't available before.
Yeah, I think that that resonates very much with me. It definitely is a global market, and I think Real Split is really going to create a wonderful opportunity for our investors. And this has really been a session that's given even myself a lot of insight into aspects of commercial property that aren't normally exposed to the public. So I really appreciate the time that you spent, in kind of elaborating on what that marketplace actually is, and how Real Split fits into that marketplace, combined with the AI and blockchain, to provide that real pool of liquidity, to allow people to not only invest in real world commercial property assets, but be able to take the dividends out as and when they see fit. So it's a wonderful opportunity. And thanks for sharing that time with us, and making us aware of the platform. And we look forward to taking the investment forward. So thank you, Brian. Appreciate it.
Welcome. Thanks, Rex. Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Take care.
Thank you.